everybody. You're watching White Mountains TV. I'm Chris Proulx. We've all been wondering what the summer might look like here in the White Mountains. Are the resorts and attractions going to be open? And if so, what's that going to look like? Well, here to shed a little bit of insight into what it may look like, perhaps, is Ben Wilcox joining us over Zoom meeting. Ben is the general manager of Cranmore Mountain Resort and has recently been appointed to the governor's Gopher committee. So thank you for joining us, Ben. How are you doing?
Good, very good. I never thought being a Gopher would be a top line title to achieve, but feeling very proud of that. So.
Well, that will be my first question. What is the Gopher committee? It's spelled Goffer.
Right, and I want to make sure I get it correct because these acronyms always get me, but basically it's the Governor's Office for Emergency Relief and Recovery, so I have to make sure I read that so I don't trip on that, but it was interesting, and I think it's a testimony to our state that I received a phone call from the governor about 10 days ago, maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, just saying, boy, we really need somebody that has a pulse on tourism in the North Country, and I was very flattered that he thought of me, and of course, didn't know a lot of the details of what that meant as far as the committee work, but happy to jump in and have been reaching out to different entities all over the North Country and Valley and everywhere to get as much feedback so I can contribute and represent our community strong here.
And members of the Gopher committee represent industry and organizations from across the spectrum. Your expertise obviously is in recreation and resorts, representing Cranmore here in the White Mountains. What's it been like so far to serve on this committee? What are some of the early takeaways?
Well, I think it's really interesting because it's a cross section of people from the healthcare industry, from different walks of business to transportation, and all facets of sectors throughout the state. So a lot of times I'll be on a Ski New Hampshire board or something where a lot of my peers, and the thing I find really interesting is you get the real global sense from what the top issues are in the state. And we're sort of on a fact-finding portion of the committee right now, where we just heard a number of testimonies yesterday from different parties seeking funds, and everything from an individual business went on there to talk about their needs for making their rent and paying their employees, to a large organization that provides funds to numerous businesses throughout the state. So it's been quite a cross section, and it's interesting that the committee I'm on is a group of more people in the professional fields, not government people, more private sector individuals. And then the other committee, there's a second committee, which is a legislative bipartisan committee, which is more of a, obviously, government assigned group of people. So I think the goal of the governor was to get that normal protocol of the bipartisan needs on the table, but also look at stakeholders that are going to work every day, dealing with issues in our industries. And from my perspective, it's been mostly focusing on tourism, restaurants, lodging. I've been reaching out to a number of parties. Some Cranmore is a member of, some we're not, but trying to throw the blanket out there as much as I can to make sure we're getting as many voices heard as possible. I think I'm one of two people that's pretty much north of Concord. So it's a big landscape to hit, but
right.
Luckily we have a lot of very strong organizations between White Mountain Attractions, Ski New Hampshire, the Chamber here in the Valley that have been really helpful to me. I know just sitting in on some Zoom calls and really getting a really strong perspective of what the issues are. So it's going to be quite a process.
Yep.
I'm expecting it. I kind of went in thinking, oh, good, are we going to start assigning money right now? And I think that's the goal. But there's a lot of process that has to go through. And the thing I like about my group so far is we're all doers that have said, let's try to get our recommendations, because we're really just an advisory group. We're going to be recommending direction that the governor takes. So it's pretty much a perspective of what we're doing.
Right. We know there are obviously lots of different needs and opinions out there, a lot of different industries. What particularly, Ben, is important to you in this as the general manager of Cranmore? What are some of the things that you're thinking about, you're advocating for as we go into the summer?
I think the biggest thing that's been the biggest concern, and it's mostly because it's my world, it's the world that I live in, which I think most of us in the Valley live in, is our impact on tourism. And so, trying to keep track of the health and welfare of the restaurants, the lodging, along with the retail, and everybody to have that collective voice. And from our perspective as a ski area, we got to mid-March before we closed, and we would have loved to have had probably 2 to 3 more weeks. I kept staring at Cranmore from hiking up Cathedral Ledge and looking over in the first week of April going, I can't believe it's like wall-to-wall snow. So we did lose some ground at the end of the winter. And, the customers are kind of holding back a little bit on their commitments to seasons passes because they want to see what's going on. And they're obviously, this is just a widespread situation where everybody's dealing with other issues other than thinking about buying ski passes right now. So we understand that. But combination of, I think from the ski side, it's just tracking that. And to your point, the thing I've been mostly focused on is what is summer going to look like? And the hardest thing for all of us that I'm trying to summarize is I don't think any of us know, because we're waiting to see where this virus goes, how it tracks. Is it leveling? Is it? We don't know. We track it every day. I think every one of us do. And we're the immediate reason for us closing. We actually closed the mountain without being required to close. But we took the action because we realized, boy, we're sort of a melting pot of people. And if this virus is out there, we got to close the doors for a couple of reasons. One, safety of the employees, and 2, safety of the guests. I mean, not in that order, but everybody's safety. But really, I think my biggest concern has been, number one, the health and welfare of everybody in the Valley first, and can we get to a partial opening or a modified opening so that we can get a little sense of normalcy back for the summer. So
right. Well, I definitely applaud you and Cranmore for making that decision. Like you said, Cranmore was one of the first resorts to voluntarily close, which has got to be hard when you look at it and it's wall-to-wall snow and it's a great season. And your customers, your season pass holders, your day visitors don't want you to close, but you're doing the right thing for the common good, for the benefit of everybody, in the state, in the long term and beyond. So we applaud you for that. Do you have in place different plans for the summer? Different, an A, B, and C, where if things go perfectly, based on recommendations, you'll do this, or at the minimum, you'll do this. What's your gut take right now? What is Cranmore going to look like this summer?
Well, again, I think if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, it might be different than it is now, because it seems like it's an ever-evolving topic. But the A plan originally was to open Memorial Day weekend, and we're usually open weekends right till mid-June, and then we go daily. That, from our sites right now, seems a little unrealistic. So I'd say Plan A is probably off the table. We're looking a little bit more of a late June opening. And then the other question is, we have a number of amusements that take place at the mountain. We have our chairlifts. We have our aerial adventure ropes course. And new this year, we have our mountain bike park. So we're kind of moving into the summer with a lot of excitement, especially with the mountain bike park. Right now, we're focusing on finishing the work that needs to be done for the mountain bike park so we can open that. The original opening date for that was Father's Day, just because we needed some more time to prep the trails and get it ready. So ideally Father's Day or maybe a week later, we'd be looking to open that park if we can. And then we've been looking at all the attractions and trying to identify what things we can operate safely for our staff and again for our guests. So could be, if we offer 10 things in attractions now, we may have to pick 3 or 5 of them that we can manage and keep safe with social distancing and then sanitation and all of those. So far, what I'm hearing is chairlifts seem to be a pretty attractive thing because especially in the summer, we can keep people really apart and people can ride the chair, get off the top of the mountain, spend a little time, come down. A couple other things we're talking about is in the old days, it was like, hey, just show up anytime you want, just come on over. And now we're looking at more where it might be a schedule. You might go onto our website and say, gee, I'm going to go to Cranmore 10 to 11 today.
Yep.
And we'll have a slot for you to come over. And it's very different. I mean, we're kind of all looking at it going, boy, these are different from our summer meetings we had in January, and that we've had to completely revamp our approach and how we're going to do things. So I think every attraction I'll tell you, the amazing thing about probably where we live and what we do is the collaboration. I talk to Storyland, I talk to all the attractions in general about what they're doing, and we have such a good synergy of attractions and ski areas that are sharing what we're all dealing with. So hopefully we'll all come up with plans. And the number one is the CDC and the health guidelines have to come out first, because people have said to me, how are you going to open? What are you going to do? Well, I think we got to wait for those standards to come out because, they know what the risk factor is. And we obviously won't move until we get the green light from them that they think we can safely open. So Again, so it's a little more complicated spring than I had anticipated, but I'm hopeful that July and August will be not normal, but be open and we get things moving a little bit is the goal. Again, wait and see. If it's a bad thing to do that, then we probably need to sit tight and really then hope winter cooperates, right? So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We hope things are probably going to get back to normal very, very gradually. I think when this first started, everybody was envisioning a day when, the order would be lifted and everything would go back to normal and we'd be partying in the streets and it's going to be just a more gradual thing, I think. And like you said, it's got to be tough to make plans for the summer. It's kind of like putting the cart before the horse when you haven't even seen the horse or know what the horse is going to look like
Right.
2 weeks from now. As you can see, my analogies are all over the place.
I'm famous for those.
Ben, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Anything else you want to let people know? Again, thank you for everything that Cranmore has done, and also thank you for serving on this Gopher committee to help represent tourism, recreation, and the White Mountains and North.
Well, I think mostly, I mean, we are in the fun business, as I always just like to tell our staff, but I really want to do a kudos to the healthcare professionals in the Valley. And I mean, they're on the front lines, they're dealing with this firsthand, and we are all, applauding them. I know my whole staff, everybody is just so pleased. We have some of our ski patrol that's involved at the hospital and different members of people that we know in the community that we know are active with that. And again, we just applaud that. That's priority number one is getting everybody healthy. And then, after that, let's hopefully get things back so we can get restaurants and retail and everybody else moving and get back to the life the way we've enjoyed it. We enjoy it here in the Valley. So thank you.
Right. Well, we hope to check in with you again as you learn more. Maybe you'll come back and share it with us. We've been speaking with Ben Wilcox, General Manager of Cranmore Mountain Resort and member of the Governor's Gopher Committee to help make plans for how we're going to recover from this epidemic from a business standpoint. So thank you again, Ben.
Great. Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you again, and you're watching White Mountains TV.